Good afternoon from the KUOW newsroom. This is Seattle Now. I'm Paige Browning. Coming up, after years of planning, the nuclear waste treatment plant at Hanford will soon be up and running. We'll dive deep in a few minutes, but first we have a lot to tell you about today. It's Wednesday, October 1st. Starting with the national story we're glued to today, the federal government is shut down after Democrats and Republicans failed to reach a compromise to fund the government. Scott Greenstone has more on the local impacts in our area.
The last partial federal government shutdown in 2019 was the longest in history, 34 days. But the impacts were felt unevenly across the country, since not all federal employees were furloughed. It's the same in Washington state now. Army Corps of Engineers operations of the Ballard Locks or Mud Mountain Dam are unaffected right now, but roughly 50 state employees who work on federally funded food and infant programs will be laid off temporarily on Monday if the shutdown doesn't end. Waits at the Seattle Passport Agency and at airport security could also be affected if the shutdown stretches for weeks. Scott Greenstone, KUOW News.
Washington Senator Patty Murray speaking out about the first government shutdown in 7 years.
Republicans may be forcing the government to shut down before they so much as talk about health care, but they will not shut down the debate.
Murray spoke late yesterday after congressional Democrats agreed they would not sign off on a Republican stopgap measure to keep the government open. They want Republicans to reverse Medicaid cuts and extend subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. The president has warned the shutdown will result in some federal workers getting fired rather than just being furloughed. We'll keep you updated at KUOW on what else is impacted here. And if you want to get in touch, reach out to KUOW. Contact info in the show notes. Our other top Northwest story today, a deployment of federal troops in Portland ordered by President Trump this week could cost the state of Oregon nearly $4 million. From Oregon Public Broadcasting, Dirk Vanderhart reports.
The cost estimate emerged in an Oregon legislative hearing Tuesday as lawmakers took up Trump's order deploying 200 National Guard troops in the city for 60 days. Russell Gibson with the Oregon Military Department said troops for the deployment will be pulled from National Guard companies based in Woodburn and Salem. Those companies have received special crowd control training, he said.
The details of the mission are still to be determined, but they are, as you all assumed, to protect federal facilities.
If it moves forward, Gibson said the cost of the deployment would be at least $3.8 million, all of it paid by the federal government. He said it could still be a week before troops are processed and trained for the mission. Trump ordered the deployment in response to protests outside a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility in Portland. City and state officials have asked a judge to block the order. I'm Dirk Vanderhart reporting.
A lawsuit in the housing world. Seattle-based real estate brokers Redfin and Zillow are being sued by the Federal Trade Commission. The FTC claims the two companies colluded to reduce competition in online rental listings with an agreement in February that saw Zillow pay Redfin $100 million to stop advertising for rental homes. The FTC calls that deal illegal and says as a result, Redfin fired hundreds of workers, then helped Zillow hire some back. A spokesperson for Zillow tells Real Estate News that their listing syndication deal with Redfin is pro-competitive and pro-consumer. Today, some of the nation's top cancer centers launched a first-of-its-kind artificial intelligence project. The new Cancer AI Alliance platform is built on clinical data from the Fred Hutch, Johns Hopkins, Dana-Farber, and the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Centers. Monica Nicholsberg has the story.
For years, AI boosters have promised the technology could help find a cure for cancer. But using AI in healthcare isn't so simple. Medical records are highly sensitive and heavily regulated. The Cancer AI Alliance solves that with a platform that works like an octopus. Each leg has its own brain, capable of traveling to a cancer center to learn and report back, leaving sensitive data behind.
You send code to the data instead of data to the code.
Jeff Leake is Chief Data Officer at Fred Hutch and head of the AI initiative. He demoed one of the projects by typing out a question about lung cancer.
That question is written out in plain language, just like you would type into a ChatGPT interface.
It instantly started spitting out code that could be sent out to the 4 cancer centers.
This is a way to reason across the data of all the different cancer centers very rapidly and to put tools in the hands of physicians that enable them to ask questions in plain language and then calculate that across 1 million patients.
Tech support for the platform comes from Microsoft, Amazon, and a handful of others. It's launching with 8 projects, including predicting patient responses to immunotherapies and finding rare cancer trends. Monica Nicholsberg, KUOW News.
2 more pieces of news to note before we get to today's feature. Immigration judge Charles Neal Floyd has been selected by President Trump to serve as the new U.S. Attorney for Western Washington, pending Senate confirmation. The Seattle Times reports that Floyd, who's currently at the Tacoma Immigration Court, has faced scrutiny for rulings at the center of a class action lawsuit. That suit challenges his record of unusually high bond denials for undocumented immigrants. Floyd has held roles with ICE, with a U.S. Army judge, and as an assistant U.S. attorney in Washington, D.C. And a sports note, Seattle sports fans can now plan their Sunday. Major League Baseball announced today the Mariners will host Game 2 of the American League Division Series starting just after 5 p.m. Sunday afternoon. That means the Seahawks can kick off against Tampa Bay at Lumen Field as originally scheduled at 1:05. Some 100,000 fans are expected to be in and around the stadiums that afternoon. The start time for the Mariners postseason game on Saturday still has not been determined. The M's will face whoever wins the wild card series between the Detroit Tigers and the Cleveland Guardians. Now, our feature story today. Earlier this fall, it looked like a pivotal part of the effort to clean up the Hanford Nuclear Reservation in south central Washington was going to be stuck in limbo even longer. Plans to build a long-awaited radioactive waste treatment plant appeared to be put on hold by the Trump administration. But then, the U.S. Secretary of Energy confirmed the plant would be operational by October 15th. Hanford's one of the largest Superfund sites in the U.S. It was established in 1943 to create plutonium for atomic bombs. Northwest Public Broadcasting's Anna King talked about the situation with KUOW's Kim Malcolm.
Anna, first of all, just get us caught up. What kind of waste are we talking about? And why is there a need to process it?
Yeah, Kim, there's 56 million gallons of radioactive waste at Hanford. And it's kind of this witch's brew of 1,800 chemicals and many, many radioactive constituents. And it's in the form of sludge, salts, and liquids. And there are 177 house-sized aging underground tanks of that stuff. And it's all stored underground at Hanford. Many of those tanks are leaking thousands of gallons of that material into the desert, not far from the Columbia River.
Right, which tends to focus the mind. So how long has this waste treatment plant, it's called a vitrification plant, how long has it been in the works and what is it going to do?
Yeah, this plant was supposed to process low-level waste into glass logs for safe long-term storage at Hanford. And Hanford broke ground on this plant in 2001. It was originally legally scheduled to go online in 2009. And this plant will pipe in sludge and waste, mix it with glass-forming materials, heat it up in giant melters, and then pour it into thousands of towering log-shaped canisters that are 7 feet tall and 4 foot wide. The plant can fill 3.5 of those canisters a day if it's run at full capacity, Kim.
All right. So years of delays on this thing. And what have Washington officials been saying about the rumors of more delays? And it appears that we're moving ahead now.
Reading between the lines, I think there is a nervous expectation that this plant will start up. It's like the week before a baby's born, bad things could happen, but nobody's talking about that. And everyone is just focused on the goal of getting it born, a safe delivery.
Right.
I talked with Stephanie Schleif, a nuclear waste program manager at Washington State's Ecology Department, and you could almost see the expectation and some of the nervousness in her face. She said that she's really watching for the testing of the processes of the plant for environmental safety and the plant startup schedule very, very closely. She says after all that is signed and delivered and checked off. She thinks that ecology is going to have a huge party with a big cake with like a melter or something drawn on the top. And that they're even going to invite the retirees from many years past to come back and celebrate this good job done. This plant's construction and startup has outlasted many people's careers. And it's just really something, if it's going to happen, to see.
Yeah, literally decades in the making. So, Anna, looking ahead for this new vitrification plant, how long is it going to take for it to process all the waste that it's been built to deal with? And how much is it going to cost?
Yeah, this process to bind up all the waste into glass will take nearly 40 years, the Department of Energy says, and it could cost more than $30 billion, according to Senator Patty Murray, just for the low-level part of this plant.
Well, Anna, before we let you go, is there any word yet on whether our brand new federal government shutdown is going to affect Hanford?
That's really hard to say. I've checked with many of my sources today to see if there was any kind of immediate actions that they could identify. All I know so far is that it's business as usual at Hanford. All of the contractors, all of the trades, they seem to still be working at Hanford.
Northwest Public Broadcasting's Anna King speaking with KUOW's Kim Malcolm. Next time on Seattle Now, Bartell Drugs' existence has officially ended.
There is a specific and objective loss here. The ease of getting prescriptions that you got, it's the very knowledgeable staff that was there, an amazing sort of selection of products that you couldn't find together in another place like that.
We'll talk about what that loss means for consumers and the industry Thursday morning. And that's all for today from the KUOW Newsroom in Seattle. Our producer is Andy Hurst. The interview in today's episode was produced by John O'Brien. And I'm Paige Browning. Seattle Now and KUOW are members of the NPR network. See you tomorrow.